welcome to Just Bloom. I'm your host, Kiki Orr, and this is episode number 21. Today, it's just me, myself, and I. No, I'm not going to say that's all that I have in the end because that is not true. I'm actually surrounded by a beautiful family, loving and supportive, also with a cast of friends. But this episode, I am going to be talking about the one and the only Vanessa Brown. That is my mother, Queen V. As you know, this past weekend we celebrated Mother's Day weekend. So I want to shout out to all the mothers. I hope that you enjoyed your Mother's Day weekend, even though Mother's Day is every day. And for those of us who have lost our moms, I hope and pray that you were able to find some level of joy and peace and comfort as you celebrated and honored your mom's legacy, because I believe it is necessary. And Ness is in quotes. Yes, everything I've been doing these days has been with Nessa-isms. I have Nessa-isms, not I just alone, but my sisters and I. We have Nessa-isms. It is necessary. There's love and happiness. It's just Nessa all up. It's Nessa all up in here. Come on, Nessa girl, and just work your magic. I am going to share in this episode a little bit about the past weekend and what we did and how we celebrated. But also, I really want to share a story that I had written about March sometime as I was going through some videos and looking at my mother. I was going through some videos, and in this particular video, it prompted me to write something. So I'm going to share that. But first, let's do a recap of the weekend. So I was really excited about this weekend because my sisters came up from Charlotte. I did have some anticipatory or was anticipating having some grief. And I will say that it was a little, but it wasn't as I thought it would be. I think in part is because I was very excited to have my sisters come up for the weekend. So I was actively busy preparing for them to come. And then when they got here, truth be told, it was really a party all weekend long. They got here Thursday night. We sat and we talked Friday. We went to my daughter's rooftop. It was a little cold. It was a lot cold. I felt like we had this waiting to excel moment. We were sitting outside and the sun was about to set and we all had on our blankets and were wrapped in blankets, freezing cold, eating from this charcuterie. I never say the daggone thing right. Charcuterie board. But anyway, it's the fancy board with cheese and crackers and grapes and raspberries and almonds and all of that good stuff and some wine. And then we did a TikTok video, the one was the soldier. Is that how it goes? Anyway, we did a TikTok video and it was quite funny because one of my sisters is a vet. She served in the Air Force. And when you have to kind of do the salute thing, she did it so sharp. We were quite amazed. I almost forgot until that moment that she was in the military, until she slid into that salute. I said, well, you better go ahead, girl, and work that. So we had a good kiki over that. We then spent some time in the rec room and played pool and ping pong and sang and listened to music and played Jeopardy, which is a game that my friend Betsy created. It is so fun. It is Jeopardy, but hood version, right? So everything that you come to know, and maybe we shouldn't say hood version, but whatever. It's for the black and brown folks. That was a great time. We just had a great weekend. And then Saturday, we did our adult brunch where we got to listen to some music and sip on some mimosa. It was nice to be out and about, took some photos. And then Saturday evening, we watched the Verses with Escape and SWV, had a good time there, then listened to some more music, did some karaoke, and just enjoyed one another. And then on Sunday, it was time for brunch. And we had brunch at home because after partying all weekend, no one wanted to get up and go out again to do brunch. So we did brunch at home. And again, everything was fantastic and wonderful. But I do want to go back to actually Friday, when we were in the rec room. I had gifted to my sisters and my daughters and my nephew all a t-shirt with some Nessa-isms on it. Just two, though. It was too blessed to be stressed, Too blessed to be stressed. That's one thing that my mama said all the time. And the other one is sharing is caring. We gave that to the younger folks, so to the two younger grandchildren. And also gifted my sisters with necklaces that said Vanessa on them. So that was in honor of our mom. And then on Sunday, we went out and we took some pictures with our t shirts on. I was also happy that my urn came from my mom just in time. It's a beautiful vase, and the vase is the urn. The ashes would be at the bottom, and I said would be because I still haven't gone to get the ashes transferred yet, and that's okay. I'm actually very much okay with that because we do things in parts. The urn is here in the house now. And then there's a bit of inscription that says, I love you more, which is something that my mother always said. I love you more, Vanessa Brown. And then on top of it, because it's a vase or vase, there's flowers in it. She was a firm believer that you should get your flowers while you are here. And so for me, this is just a reminder that I get to give myself flowers while I'm here, or I do accept flowers. So if you want to send me some flowers, they get to go into the vase or the vase. Potato, potato, tomato, tomato. So that is just a really quick recap of the weekend. It was fantastic. And now, without further ado, I do want to get into this ode to my mom that I had written. And what you're going to hear next is my mother's voice, really briefly. And then I'm going to read you the story in honor of the legendary Vanessa Brown. But Queen V to you. What you say, Mom?
Living large up in here, living it up, food service, all that.
Hey!
Hey!
That was recorded a few hours after my mother was told that she would die. I mean, it wasn't that blunt, and it might as well have been. It was more like she's in active liver failure. The cancer had metastasized in her lymph nodes, and our response was more exploratory. It was, what can we do? How about chemo? And the doctor's response, because she was in active liver failure, that it wouldn't be an option. Well, how do you know if you're not able to biopsy? We had so many questions and were advocating hard for our mother, and yet the responses weren't any more promising. That had me muster up enough courage to ask, how much time do we have? Of course, they didn't know for certain, or maybe they had more of an inkling than they let on, because it was indeed another doctor that originally told us that she had days, which was the reason we all flew from New York City to Charlotte to be by her side. Well, at least in the same state. Because of COVID, only one person a day at a time could be in the hospital. We can't say for sure, is what they said, maybe a month to 6 months. That was October 13th, and would come to be that on November 5th, she transitioned at home with her three daughters by her side. And the story isn't about doctors, diagnosis, so much as it is about what this video has come to symbolize for me today. Let me give you a little bit more background. Later that day, we had met, or I should say earlier that day, we had met with a hospice social worker. And she was asking my mom, what would she consider to be a quality of life? What are some of the things that she would enjoy doing? I awaited her response with bated breath, praying that whatever the answer was, that she'd be able to fulfill it as well as us. I was also thinking about the irony of the question. What a question. Time to be thinking about quality of life when possibly you have little time to execute on those things. And of course, that would be providing that the list or the things that my mom wanted to do, I should say, that would be providing that there were things that my mother wanted to do. It would turn out that there wasn't anything. She had and been living the life that she wanted. It had me thinking about how I would answer that. How would you? The social worker said to my mom, if ever there was a time to be selfish in life, it's now. Your daughters wouldn't mind. To me, it was a slight nudge, to which I'm grateful for because mom didn't do selfish well, even with permission. However, mom's response remained the same, with the additional comment of, I know my daughters wouldn't mind. I'm grateful for them. Mom was able to share a gratitude with ease. It was her go to and come from. Moments after the social worker left, we both took a deep breath. sat in silence, and she said, "That was a lot." The lot was being told that she was going to die, determining her last request, and where she would like to be when the time came. No tears were shed from either of us, but my heart was broken. I could actively see Mom in deep reflection, and only for what seemed like too fast of a moment. And then she snapped out of it and moved on. And by moving on, I mean my mom would go back to answering every call that came through. "Hi there. I'm good. The question is, how are you?" Because that's just what my mom did. "How are you?" That was what she'd asked of most people when they called to check in on her. She had this uncanny way of making it about them. Like moths to a flame, they took to it, happy to oblige. Some would call it deflecting, and I call it generous. We would spend the rest of the day selecting her meals for the next day. She did a little walking as much as she could. Oh, yes. And I used the pajama bottom to create a turban for her. She always wanted to make sure that she was looking as best as she could. When her dinner came, she asked me to record the moment that you had heard. Can you believe it? This was the energy and the spirit of a woman who was told she was going to die. And her words were, "Living large up in here, living it up, food service and all that." That was the level of spirit and energy my mom would maintain until her body shut down. When I looked at the video before, I was only reminded that my mom was dying. I now experience the gratitude and see her radiating light in a time when it would be okay if she pulled the covers over her head. But what this video in its totality is my mom saying, "I lived until I died." It's such a powerful demonstration for me because it's not what she said only, it's what we got to experience of her. I mean, I tell you that it was as if someone said to her so many years ago, "You have a second chance at life." And she said, "Got it, heard you." And she took full advantage of life. Everyone that was around her, everyone who got to experience her, knew exactly where they stood with her. They knew that they were loved, they knew that they were honored, respected. She lived life the way she wanted to live life, doing what she wanted to do, not doing what she didn't want to do. It was really a joy to be able to watch her live. I was talking to someone the other day, someone I hadn't spoken to in a while, and I had shared with him that my mom had died. And he said to me, "Did she live a good life?" And I smiled. No, in fact, he said, "Did she enjoy life?" I smiled so big that my heart could barely contain it because the answer was absolutely. She lived her life and she lived it well and lived it with joy. And so I thank her, I honor her for being able to demonstrate to me what living life looks like. And so I say thank you, Mom, for your life, for the lessons that you've taught us. And we say, all hail the Queen. That is Queen V. So go out there and live your life. Let the necessary occur. And remember, no matter where you are or what you're doing, whether alone or with others, it's always the right time to just bloom.